Good evening. Welcome to Sports Weekend on I-24 News. Coming to you from the Jaffa Port, I'm Merav Savil. On today's show, the European Weightlifting Championship takes over Tel Aviv. Arsenal reached the FA Cup finals while Borussia Dortmund shocked the Bundesliga champions. Barcelona loses an embarrassing match to Granada. What is going on with Barca? And the final games of the NBA regular season are upon us and playoff spots are nearly set. Joining me for the show today are I-24 News sports analysts Jonathan Regev and Danny Swibel. Hi, guys.
Hi, Merav. Good evening.
And we begin with some weightlifting. Hundreds of Israelis gathered in Tel Aviv to watch competitors from 37 different countries duke it out in the European Weightlifting Championship over the weekend. Jonathan Salem takes a look at the 10-day-long competition.
For the first time in its history, the city of Tel Aviv hosts the annual European Weightlifting Championships, accommodating hundreds of competitors arriving from 36 countries.
We're very excited, and of course it's a great honor for us to host 36 countries at the European Championship. So for us it's a great privilege that the European countries trust us, and we are provide the best we can.
Many of the athletes come from countries with weightlifting credentials like Armenia and Russia. Male or female, they all begin the competition with the task of lifting at least 75 kilograms. An hour into the competition, the strongest have prevailed. Russia's Tatiana Kashirina, the new European champion, ended her round lifting 181 kilograms, making an excellent European score close to the world record. With the same weight category, Kashirina could go far in the World Championships. The next applauses came for two Israeli sports personalities, 50-year-old Alon Ben Shachar, who was a three-time winner of Mr. Israel, a triple European champion, and a weightlifting world champion, and 26-year-old Limor Azugi, the winner of the Israeli Miss Fitness.
We like very much sports, and for Israel people to come to see the Europe champion in Israel, it's something very amazing. To see what they do here is something special.
I'm very proud to see this organization, and this is athletes. I love it. This is really exciting.
Hosting this event is very important for Israel. In a country where only mere hundreds are members of the Weightlifting Federation and practice the sport on a daily basis, it is also an opportunity to try and make the sport more popular.
In Israel, something around 400 are participating in weightlifting. Recently, the numbers goes up, and at this championship we have four athletes that competed.
After the success of the 2014 European Championships, the next step for the Israeli Weightlifting Federation is trying to get more money from the Ministry of Sports. For Eli Sadres, the president of the federation, weightlifting and bodybuilding should become more popular in Israel, joining other sports as well. His dream is to see the Israeli flag raised above all, replacing that of Russia, which currently dominates the global competition.
Now to the FA Cup, which is Arsenal's only option to make something out of the season. Wigan were in their way. Wigan won the FA Cup last year, but were also relegated at the end of the season. Despite the league difference, they stunned Manchester City at the quarterfinals, and it seemed to be happening again in the semis as they took the lead on a penalty on the 63rd minute. The Gunners had no choice but to press forward, and it paid off. 9 minutes from time, Arsenal defender Per Mertesacker heads in to send the game into overtime. And a replay clearly showed there was no offside despite the calls by the defenders. No goals in overtime, and in the shootout, Santi Cazorla sends the winning shot in. Arsenal advances on penalty to the final, which will be held in Wembley on May 17th. And yes, Bayern Munich are already the champions of the Bundesliga. And yes, they are saving their strength for the Champions League semifinals. But a game against Dortmund is always a big affair. But this time, Bayern was nowhere to be found. The runners-up came to the Allianz Arena and were in control from the get-go. First half, Henrik Mkhitaryan putting Dortmund up 1-0 over the champs. And the yellow domination continued after the break. Dortmund on the fast break 3-on-3, and the final pass gets to Marco Ruiz, who lays it in. It's already 2-0, and we're not even close to being done yet. It only gets better for the visitors. 11 minutes in the second half, Jonas Hoffmann seals it. 3-0 was the final score. It will not change the fact that Bayern hosted the trophy, but it's still a confidence booster for Dortmund. And Jonathan, we saw Dortmund had a lot of heart yesterday.
I just love this team. I mean, they're not even close to having the big budgets of the big teams. But look at what they've done this past week. They beat Bayern Munich away, 3-0. They beat Real Madrid 2-0. Yes, they did not qualify to the Champions League semifinals, but they
made noise.
Agonizingly close against Real Madrid, the team that brings players. The team just last summer brought a player for 100 million euros. That's past the budget that Dortmund has. That's how big of a team they are. Now, every summer they have their big players taken away. Last summer, Mario Götze went to Bayern Munich. This summer it's going to happen again. Lewandowski will go, but their heart is so big that every time they still find some way to do it. Now, yes, they'll not win the Bundesliga, they'll not win the Champions League. They may win the German Cup, and they may face Bayern Munich in the final. Both teams are in the semifinal. This win yesterday in the Allianz Arena is going to give them a lot of confidence.
And we could say that since Bayern already won the championship, maybe this game wasn't as exciting for them. If they do meet again in the German Cup, are we expecting a replay of this 3-0, or
No.
is Bayern going to put up much more of a fight?
It's not going to be a replay of this 3-0, and it's not going to be a replay of Bayern Munich beating Dortmund 3-0 in the Westfalenstadion in the first round. It is going to be a close game, but we've seen from this Dortmund team that they can give trouble to Bayern Munich. Now, you said it yourself. Bayern Munich, yes, they're the champions. Yes, they're saving their legs.
They're a little relaxed, more than they have been.
But a game against Dortmund is not just another game. They lost to Augsburg last week. Well, you can say fine already. They're the champions. Dortmund is their arch rivals. They love to beat them every time. And then Dortmund came into their...
And it's important to beat them every time for the fans, not just for themselves.
It is important. And Dortmund came into their home turf and beat them 3-0. So yes, there are excuses for Bayern Munich, but this Dortmund team is very big. And if they meet in the German Cup final, it's going to be a very close contest.
And how big of an actual confidence booster is this for Dortmund? Did they not even need a confidence booster? They're playing that well to begin with.
Actually, I think they're quite confident with themselves. They're confident because last week they beat Real Madrid 2-0. We saw their strength. A team Real Madrid came in winning 3-0. Everybody said, including myself, Dortmund has no chance. They were leading 2-0 in the first half. They were very, very close to beating Bayern Munich, beating Real Madrid after losing 3-0 in the first game. So they have a lot of confidence. They have a very experienced manager in the likes of Jurgen Klopp, Lewandowski, Marco Reus, Mkhitaryan, big players.
And maybe this can be a momentum forward for them, Jonathan.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And we now move to the topic of the week. It's been a tough week for Barcelona. For the first time in 7 years, they will not be one of the last 4 teams in the Champions League after losing to Atletico Madrid midweek. And on Saturday, Barca looked even more confused, losing to Granada 1-0. Jonathan and Danny, what is going on with this team that we learned or we're used to being so good?
All that you said, and it's not even the worst news, because the worst news is the punishment they suspend by FIFA. They may not be able to transfer players within the coming year. So this squad, which is good, but maybe not good enough anymore, is the one that will probably have to lead them next summer with an injured goalkeeper, with a central defender who already announced he's leaving. Big problems. And with all this, they're facing Real Madrid on Wednesday in the Spanish Cup final. Now, Barcelona... They could have lost 2 titles in the space of 3 days. They're out of the Champions League. The loss yesterday, if Atletico Madrid wins tonight, that means Atletico is 4 points above them with just 5 games to go. It may be very, very big. Still, this is Barcelona, and if they beat Real Madrid on Wednesday in the Cup final, it's going to give them a lot of confidence, and they're capable of doing that. We just saw that in the Bernabeu.
We shouldn't give up on them just yet, and you think they can still hoist a trophy at some point this season?
Absolutely. They can still do it this season, and even if this squad is the one that has to stay over the summer without any transfers, they can still be very, very good next season. But this is not the best team in Europe, the most dominating team this team was for 3 or 4 years ago.
And they've become a dynasty, but obviously dynasties in sports don't always last. We've seen it happen before in many sports other than football.
See, that's the thing. I think of, the NBA, I think of the end of these beautiful, beautiful eras, like Detroit in the 80s, or, who else? Lakers in the 80s.
I'm a Celtics fan, and when the Celtics went away at the end of the 80s, it was sad, but it's bound to happen.
You can never imagine it's going to happen until it does. Obviously, we're humans, we get older, and new hungry teams come up. It's inevitable, but it's hard to accept. So I do understand some of the Barca fans.
And of course, there's been a lot of reaction to Barca's week on Twitter. Let's take a look at them. The first tweet we have is Coco Pino saying, because seeing Barcelona with trophy at the end of the season is just too mainstream. Guys, have we become accustomed to them winning and just expected for it to happen again?
That's the thing. Sports fans are spoiled. Okay, they don't remember bad days. They remember good days. What
we're triggered just to remember the good.
Yeah, that's what Twitter's for. We you know, if you're a Barcelona fan, you remember the good days. I don't know if they remember that in the mid '80s, Real Madrid won 5 trophies in a row, but that's happened. Those things happen.
And Mora from Football Facts 101, who's saying, honestly, can't see Tata Martino carrying on as Barca coach after this season. Jonathan, is that something that we should be expecting at the end of the season?
Again, the big problem for any manager that may come after Martino is the fact that he will not be able to bring, at least now, new players. Any manager that comes, he says, I want this guy and this guy and this guy. If someone else comes in...
But it can't happen right now.
It cannot happen. It will change. Even if Barcelona wins the Spanish Cup, that by itself is not enough. That by itself is not enough to keep the coach. Let's remember, they're still in the race for the championship. It can happen. If they win the championship, everything changes.
It may actually save him.
On a regular year, without this punishment, I'd say that if he doesn't win the championship, even with a King's Cup in Spain, I think he's gone.
And we're actually moving on to a couple funny ones. I think this next one is specifically for you, Jonathan, feeling like those how Atletico has treated Real and Barca this season. This is definitely one for you. You've said it all season long. Atletico has ruled La Liga so far.
With a quarter of the budget of Real Madrid and Barcelona. That's why I like them.
And we've got one more on the funny side. It's coming in. Breaking news. NASA's confirmed that all the Barca fans who were flying too high have safely landed on Earth.
They were flying way too high.
But that's what we fans are supposed to do. When it's good, we're all hyped up, we're all on top of the world, and when it's bad, we're nowhere to be found. Well, thank you, guys, and we now move to our sports news in brief. This year's Copa Pilsener in El Salvador, the Brazilian team are the favorites to win the 4-country tournament, and over the weekend we saw exactly why. They throttled England 11-1. Brazil was ahead 4-0 in the first 7 minutes of play, and the score was 11-0 before England even managed to score. Brazil scored 18 goals in just 2 games. And the 9th round of the Super Rugby, the Lions hosting the Sharks in Johannesburg, and the visitors took advantage early, taking a 6-0 lead, but the Lions got back in the game and evened the score, making the Sharks work for their win. But the Sharks were too strong, eventually winning 25-12, helping them gain the top spot in an extremely close standings. And the Atlanta Hawks managed to lock the last spot on the Eastern Conference standings by beating the Miami Heat 98-85 at home. The Hawks' third win secured their playoff spot and knocked out the New York Knicks, meaning Carmelo Anthony will miss the playoffs for the first time in his 11-year career. And Danny, that brings me to you. We're heading into the last week, the last final games of the NBA season. The East is already locked up.
The East is finally locked. Atlanta winning. They knocked the Knicks out of the playoffs. And I want to say this, Marav. I know I've given you a hard time about your Knicks all season, but it is
I'm one of those fans who's hiding right now that we just talked about.
I do understand.
Carmelo Anthony, he used to play in the playoffs because he had a better team.
It's true. They say that in the 2014 playoffs, this will be the first time in NBA history without the Lakers, the Celtics, and the Knicks. So it is kind of a sad day for basketball.
But we're taking a look at these East standings. These are locked in.
Yes, they are locked in.
These teams are ready to go.
They're locked in. I mean, it's still moving around. I mean, first we have Indiana and Miami going back and forth. Neither of them wants to take this first spot. Neither of them obviously
handing it over to the next person.
They don't want home court advantage, obviously. They want to work a lot harder, I guess. I mean, they're still both playing they're playing like garbage. The fact that the Heat lost to Atlanta is ridiculous. I mean, sure, they're very injured.
And that's a day after beating the Pacers.
That's right. So it's like one day on, one day off with both of these teams. They're both not playing well at all. And it's actually allowed a team like the Bulls to move up in the power rankings ahead of them in the East, because the Bulls have been red hot with Joakim Noah, getting a lot of triple-doubles going in the class.
And the power rankings are really something we should look at when we're going into the playoffs, because the standings is something that's happened all season. Yes, the Heat and the Pacers were unstoppable at the beginning. Now it's really the Bulls who are taking the front seat in this.
I mean, that's right. And the thing is, so the Bulls aren't scared of either of these teams. If the Bulls should get past the first round, if and when, they will hopefully want to play Indiana, I'm guessing.
And in the West, there's still one spot left, but and they're still battling within each other for those spots within.
Oh, it's been getting brutal at the end. Memphis and Phoenix are both fighting for the number 8 spot, and Memphis actually is going to be visiting Phoenix on Monday night, so that's going to be a heck of a matchup.
Fighting for the right to lose against the Spurs in the first round, basically.
That's right. That is true, because the Spurs right now are the dominant team. They're winning like they've done for over a decade and a half. So, you know, they're going to make it to that spot.
They're so good. They're so experienced. I mean, you just wait for them to literally go away, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They're there every time.
The Spurs are scary.
And aside from the Spurs, who should we expect to see very quickly in that West?
So, you know, the Clippers, they locked their third spot. The OKC's locked in that second spot. We don't know who they're going to play because, again, at the end, we know Dallas, the Suns, Grizzlies. They're all moving around at the bottom of that top 8. So it remains to be seen who they'll actually play.
And let's also just say that the Clippers do have a very experienced head coach at the helm to get them through these playoffs. Jonathan and Danny, thank you very much.
Thank you, Marav.
Thanks, Marav.
And that's all for us for today. For all the latest sports news, you can find us online, i24news.tv, our Facebook page, or our Twitter page. And you can tweet at us at i24newssports. We'd love to hear from you on there. For all of us here on Sports Weekend, I'm Marav Savir. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to join us again right here next Sunday.